this. I don't understand why you're being so hateful towards me.
The Island Boys have been receiving fewer and fewer likes on TikTok every single month since they blew up. 10 million, then 9 million, going to 7 million, before a pretty sharp drop to less than 3 million last month. The Google Trend Graph tells a similar story. People have slowly been losing interest in these two rappers who have made respectable physical sacrifices for their career in entertainment. However, while we're not here to hate on the Island Boys, we will make the argument that they were destined to fail from the very beginning. And the first reason is because they never had a decent skill set or product to begin with. When they first blew up 6 months ago in October 2021 for their infamous I'm an Island Boy rap, it wasn't because people were impressed by their ability to sing. In fact, it was the complete opposite. The video went viral because of how terrible the song was. The Island Boys were instantly judged as two talentless bozos who had covered themselves in tattoos, and as a result, people began to follow them for their stupidity as opposed to their talent.
And I think they're entertaining, and I follow them because they're entertaining. I love to see the stupid shit that they say.
They were mocked brutally in some of the funniest TikTok parodies ever posted to the platform, whilst being used as a representation for how easy it was to get famous on the internet in 2021.
Let's be real. How long before the Dust Bunny twins over here get a record deal, sponsors, and tours? Oh, you don't think so? Remember this, bozo?
Now, the difference between the Island Boys and someone like 6ix9ine is that while 6ix9ine also got famous in part by his over-the-top ridiculous appearance, he actually has a decent portfolio of music to fall back on. People hate on 6ix9ine, but only in the beginning. He then becomes well known, people check out his music, and then some become fans after realizing that his songs are actually pretty decent, therefore it's a solid growth strategy. On the contrary, for the Island Boys, people hate on them, then check out their music, only to realize that similar to their TikTok content, it's not worth listening to.
People don't find these guys entertaining. They're not entertained by them. Other than, oh hey, these guys look like this. Oh, that Island Boys video was funny. What's happened since? Nothing. At all. And they keep rinsing and repeating and they're milking it dry. Did you really think you were going to go into this club, do this a cappella Island Boys, and people were going to mess with it?
Without some decent art form to fall back on, they're unable to convert their haters into fans over time, therefore they either become even more hated or completely irrelevant. The Island Boys discussed this on the Impulsive podcast with Logan Paul, stating that the haters were actually fans because they were following everything that the Island Boys were doing.
They're really fans because really, think about a hater. A hater is watching you sometimes more than a person that loves you. Yeah, and if they're hating on me, it's just because they really love me. Because I see the haters check up on me more than the love, so.
Which seemed to be a variation of the it's better to be known than to be liked argument. However, there are so many examples of where this doesn't really apply. There are countless YouTubers who have been outed as predators, for example EDP445 and Minilad, who are both very well known, yet receive almost no views as a result of people disliking them so much that the audience goes out of their way not to watch the content. Therefore, the argument is probably better expressed as, you need to have an entertainment form that people remember as being impressive, whilst maintaining somewhat of a likable reputation, which the Island Boys don't really have. People don't think about them in the context of unique, edgy artists that put a lot of effort into their music. They think about them in the context of two clowns who are famous for being famous.
Do you think that that's part of what people kind of hold against you as a grudge, is that like your image is crazy and you're sort of famous, but maybe the music isn't necessarily the reason why you guys are so known?
Right.
One of the Island Boys would go on to state that the other reason they had so many haters was because of jealousy.
Just hating on me or whatever. And it's just a form of jealousy, either that, because I'm not really doing nothing.
Which is just another naive argument often made by narcissistic celebrities who lack self-awareness. Why are you so confident that people want to be in your position? Do you ever consider that maybe there's another reason as to why people hate you besides jealousy? The everyone is jealous of me argument displays a lack of critical thinking, personal honesty, and self-awareness, which was highlighted once again when Logan Paul would ask them about why they thought they blew up in the first place.
Why do you think you guys went viral in the first place with the Island Boy rap?
I worked my ass off. It's not even just the Island Boys. It's the fact that we went through so many obstacles, it was just bound to happen.
Now, it'd be a cheap shot to say that there was no hard work. I'm sure the Island Boys had to have put some degree of effort into their career before posting that mega viral video. However, as mentioned previously, they didn't blow up because they had been in the studio relentlessly for 10 years straight. They blew up because they were being laughed at.
You have that it factor.
Yes, I'm a star. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we're the only ones that are talented in singing.
And this is one of the strangest parts about their whole career. They've deluded themselves into thinking that they have musical talent as a result of becoming famous.
So basically, when I was locked up, I was probably one of the only people in the dorm that knew how to rap, that knew how to freestyle, but didn't care. I think me as a rapper, my music is underestimated though. Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I'm a good artist. I can sing, rap, whatever, versatile. I can make rock music, whatever.
Even going so far as to say this when asked about their future,
What is next for you guys?
We're rappers. We care about music way more important than a lot of things. We trying to take over as an artist, singing, rapping, because I could sing, I could rap.
And this when Logan Paul would ask them a similar question.
What's your 5-year plan?
To be always top Billboard in music.
Good God.
Maybe acting if they let me with tattoos acting or something like that.
However, their confused response of always being top of the Billboard in music was certainly lacking in confidence, probably because at the end of the day, they know that with their current image and skill set, the music they do produce could never compete with the top of the Billboard.
Their look doesn't help them at all in terms of music because people just see them as this ridiculous character, and it's just unfortunate for them for the future. Right now, they're probably enjoying it.
For example, when they'd post the official version of their I'm an Island Boy song to YouTube, it's basically impossible to find a single positive comment despite the video's 13 million plus views. Thank you, Island Boys, you saved my brother. He was paralyzed in a fatal car accident. Luckily, when I played this song, he rose and clicked the sound to mute. Wow, you guys definitely have a hidden talent that should stay hidden. Have this as my alarm clock every morning. Been waking up 30 minutes earlier just to turn it off. Thank you, Island Boys. In addition to this negativity toward their music online, they'd also receive a similar response during their public appearances. For example, they'd both attend the Jake Paul vs Tyrone Woodley fight, where the entire crowd would try and get them kicked out, stating that they had apparently thrown a shoe at someone, which they never did.
So the Island Boys just showed up. The whole place is booing them. The Island Boys are getting kicked out because they just threw a shoe at someone.
Additionally, in November 2021, they'd be booked to sing at Club Live in Miami, where they'd be booed by the crowd after yet another underwhelming performance, at which point the audience would discover another reason behind why their career wasn't going to last for the long term. They were completely unwilling to take advice from more knowledgeable role models in their field. Going back to the Impulsive podcast, the Island Boys seemed pretty proud that they had paved their own path after Mike would ask them about which rappers they had been inspired by.
What was your inspiration? Like obviously you guys listen to rap music coming up.
I try not to listen to nobody because I feel like it betters my mindset.
Is that why you guys have such a unique sound?
Yeah. We don't listen to rappers.
Nowadays, I used to listen to a lot of rappers.
Do you think you should start listening to them again?
No,
because
you're gonna try to steal their flow.
They already made it. I'm not trying to you know what I'm saying?
You make it more being yourself.
I'm not trying
Are
to
you sure?
brain
About being yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with you guys to an extent of not being swayed by other people, but also at the same time, the current winners in the culture act as guardrails and guidelines for what you do with your craft.
Mike is 100% correct here. If they were to copy another artist completely, people will call them out as copycats. However, if they decide to completely ignore the valuable lessons and current trends set by the industry's leading artists and walk their own path without any inspiration from anyone else, they're just going to end up sounding like, well, the Island Boys.
Is that how you end up in a place where you sound like you guys do, which is so drastically different? I wouldn't even call it hip hop. It's not rap, right? What is it?
They don't even really seem to understand what their own genre of music is.
I was trying to go for more melodic sound. When you keep on rapping in the same
cadence,
in the same form,
You got no flow.
It's the same flow.
Monotone.
Kind of monotone. We go you're very.
And going back to their inability to take advice from others, that eventually walk out of the Impulsive podcast after George would provide them with what seemed to be some tongue-in-cheek yet useful financial advice.
I think if God forbid it doesn't go in your guys' direction, for real, I think you guys take all of your jewelry assets and invest it in something. So you guys will never ever be broke again.
After storming out of the interview, an article would be released by HITC reading George Janko vs Island Boys net worth compared after podcast feud, which put the Island Boys net worth at $100,000 compared to George Janko's net worth of $600,000. With the Island Boys being so offended by George's basic financial advice and the semi-accurate idea that offensive things are just self-deficiencies that you're yet to address, their emotional response to what George had to say is also a pretty good indication that the Island Boys are probably pretty unwise and insecure when it comes to their financial situation. You know they're also insecure about their future if they flip out on a simple question like that. George didn't say anything offensive. The world is laughing at these boys, not with them. I refuse to believe there's people this insecure when it comes to money in this world, lol. This was also the opinion held by a financial YouTuber named Graham Stephan.
This sort of confidence and arrogance, I do think would end up getting in the way. Financial advice is not something to get offended about. I mean, there's nothing in there that should have been offensive.
Graham also reiterated what was said earlier about the unlikely nature of their career lasting for the long term.
A career like this could last you anywhere from a few months to a few years. We've seen so many people come up like this where they blow up big and then all of a sudden they do nothing. They can't carry that momentum. And for this right now, they're good for going viral. But I'm not sure if that could be sustained or if that could be translated into a successful career long term.
Before going on to once again discuss how George was probably making just as much money as the Island Boys.
I don't see anything here that would say George is making less money than the Island Boys. If anything, he could be making the same, if not more.
However, when this point will be put against the Island Boys on TikTok, they seem to share a differing opinion.
I'm gonna say it respectfully in the most humble way as possible. I doubt he's making any new money like how Island Boys are. We are successful and happy in life.
Which would be followed by another TikTok, once again displaying their inability to take the advice of others and their desire to walk their path of success alone.
But if someone's talking about my financials, I don't want to hear it. You're not the one that's making me millions of dollars. I made millions of dollars myself. You know what I'm saying? It's just me doing it myself alone, you dig?
Overall, the reason behind why the Island Boys are already on their way out was summarized simply and obviously in a comment made by a YouTuber called Hello Yassine.
It's short-term hustling. And we've seen this exact same quote-unquote business model, I guess you could call it, being done, but this doesn't last.
Reality is hit Lil Xan now. You feel me? The money probably not coming in the same way.
Stat's trying to get 30 grand out of him to finish up the balance on the G-Wagon.
On the
and
G-Wagon.
he don't got 30 grand for it.
30 grand when he had who knows how much money at one
that's
point.
a reality
I
for
would,
a lot of
I will
artists,
cut
right?
my arm off if Lil Xan has $30,000.
It was just 3.5 years prior that on the very same podcast, Lil Xan was sitting back and bragging about owning 3 different Los Angeles apartments.
I have the same one 10 floors up now.
Really?
Yep.
What? Don't you have another one down the street too?
And another one on the same floor.
Why do you have 3 apartments?
One for my parents, one for me and Eli, my hacker, and then one for the hose.
The hose?
Despite once being in what seemed like an unlosable situation, it was obvious that over the long run, Lil Xan's failure was not only inevitable but deserved, and it all began with what seemed to be a poor work ethic dating all the way back to high school.
So I failed every class up until I dropped out freshman year. I just could not sit down for 7 hours a day.
Now, we shouldn't make the argument that poor grades in school automatically result in a poor work ethic over the long term. There are simply too many examples of mediocre people performing terribly in school before going on to achieve greatness in a different field. However, there's a bit of a difference between finishing school with bad grades and failing every single class before dropping out in your freshman year of high school, as was the case with Lil Xan, establishing what you might call something like a predisposed naturally poor work ethic.
They could never get Xan to do the shit that he actually had to do for his career. Like, I remember talking to Stat about it and he was constantly frustrated.
There are going to be numerous examples throughout this video of Lil Xan often being unable to do the work whenever it was required. We already discussed him dropping out of school in his freshman year, but it continued into the beginning of his music career when he failed to show up to countless meetings with other big rappers who had given him an opportunity.
He kept missing the meetings.
When at less than 2,000 followers, he'd be noticed by an individual named DJ Fu, who wanted to take Lil Xan to meet a potential manager by the name of Stat Quo, who was an old school sober rapper and manager who had worked with Eminem in the past.
If it wasn't for this guy, I would literally never have been discovered, never met Stat Quo. We wouldn't be doing the No Jumper Day in the Life.
However, as mentioned just prior, despite this insanely big opportunity while still at such a small follower count, Lil Xan kept missing the meetings either as a result of being disorganized or because he thought the meetings were too good to be true.
It's LA.
You can't believe everybody.
It's LA.
It was a time when SoundCloud rappers were popping up left, right, and center to the point that it was becoming a meme. Lil Peep, Lil Skies, Lil Pump with Gucci Gang.
Is Lil Pump actually an artist? Is he a rapper that is truly worth taking seriously? The border between being a musician and being a meme.
So when a song was released to Lyrical Lemonade titled Betrayed, sung by an artist with a name as stupid as Lil Xanax, people had to click to see if it was a meme or not.
People clicked on it because they were like, we gotta hear what a Lil Xan sounds like, you know what I mean? And then they were actually like pleasantly surprised.
The song was actually pretty decent, creating a perfect storm exploding its popularity.
I've always said that it was just like the perfect combination of the name, the thumbnail, the title, the actual song itself.
It blows my mind, bro.
And shortly thereafter, it would become the most viewed video on all of Cole Bennett's Lyrical Lemonade.
Just how quickly you went from a total nobody to somebody that everybody knew.
It's crazy.
It was so shocking, even for me being like really close to it.
However, countless comments along the lines of, if he kept making music like this, he wouldn't be a joke, hint that after this project, he would be considered as somewhat of a one-hit wonder, as 6 months later he released his long-anticipated first studio album, which would be met with many negative reviews from individuals like Anthony Fantano.
We're not even at the halfway point of the year yet, and this is one of the worst worst things I've heard all year.
whilst failing to achieve a professional review higher than 2 out of 5 stars or more than 5 out of 10. The reasoning for the poor release would be discussed by Adam22 at a later date, and it was what you might call unsurprising.
Like, I remember when Lil Xan's album came out, right? And I remember having a conversation with Stat and being like, what do you think of the album? Because it was pretty obvious that the album was bad. Xan put in like no work for the album. And I remember having that conversation with him. And if it was up to Stat, Xan would have been sitting in the studio recording every night, and instead he was just doing drugs and having random ass girls come over.
Thanks for the follow. Thank you very much. I don't know if you can really hear me, but I appreciate it. I'm just doing some art here though. I'm drawing this other stupid guy. A friend.
Every night.
The other issue might have been that after the insane success of his single Betrayed, Lil Xan might have been lured into a false sense of security about his future and talent as an artist. He might have felt as though he could now relax a little bit and take his foot off the gas, resulting in one incredible banger to lead the album, followed by 15 other mediocre songs. This is the self-described reason behind why T-Pain's rap career eventually failed, and could certainly have been the same story with Lil Xan.
Everybody's like, it's downhill from here. The analogy was, if you pedal up the hill, you can coast afterwards.
Right, okay.
You can just stop working. You have to keep working. What they don't tell you is that you coast, totally fine. There's another hill. So you gotta keep going.
From Lil Xan's perspective, he would state that the poor performance of the album wasn't his fault, or was instead the fault of his management.
I dropped like a mixtape that got way more like positive reviews than my album, and it should have been my album because my first album wasn't put together by me. It was put together by my management, and you know, I love my management, but I mean, they f***ed my first album completely up to the point where I didn't even pick the track listing or like what songs were going on. It was so rushed.
However, this just revealed another one of Lil Xan's flaws, a lack of personal responsibility. Now, we don't know whose fault it was that the first album flopped, but in reality it's usually a mix of both parties and is rarely the fault of one person or another. However, Lil Xan is the artist. If you release something publicly under your name and it sucks, you unfortunately have to own the failure. Plus, most of the time, even if it wasn't your fault, people like you way more when you just say, yeah, it was my fault, because it displays humility and the desire to improve. Anyway, despite his first album being a bit of a flop, Lil Xan was still able to maintain his popularity after the initial blow up, because when you look past the dopey personality, minor victim complex, and actually watch him on one of these podcasts, he's a surprisingly likable dude. He's not an arrogant douchebag like, for example, Lil Pump, and generally speaking, he's honest and transparent about the good and bad in his life.
Talk about anything, like if you ask me anything, I'll be like, yeah. Like,
his stupid stories about having multiple threesomes in the space of a week make him entertaining to watch and listen to, making him somewhat of a celebrity as opposed to a rapper.
All the interviews with Lil Xan always like they get as much as damn near some of my music videos. You know what I mean? Right now, at this moment in my career, I'm more of a celebrity than a rapper. You feel me? Because I can't leave the crib without 10 kids coming up to me right as I leave the door.
However, by the same token, the amount of stories that he has, which are to some extent based on poor life decisions, openly displays his lifestyle filled with a never-ending cycle of short-term pleasure. And this is the problem with so many of these SoundCloud rappers. The branding by default is the glorification of drugs, bringing hoes over to the crib every night, taking out loans to buy cars, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, expensive jewelry. They become so famous and successful while living this kind of life that they actually think that they're on the right path, when in reality, real long-term sustainable success is, at least in part, determined by your ability to avoid these temptations. The other problem with living this kind of lifestyle is that it's usually accompanied by a multitude of poor financial decisions. In the beginning, Lil Xan seemed convinced that this wasn't who he was.
Do you go crazy hard with expensive clothes and jewelry and ridiculous bullshit, or do you hold on to it? What's going on in your lives right now?
I'm not into the whole, I'm into grills and like MCM, like I have like a chain, but like it's not like so expensive. It's expensive, not expensive. I'm not into the whole jewelry.
However, only 6 months later, in a video posted to YouTube once again by No Jumper, this seemed to have changed, as Lil Xan's out-of-control spending habits and lack of respect for valuable items was put on full display. He'd start by mentioning that he would take any sponsorships as he was low on cash at the time.
Moneybag Cream Soda, you wanna sponsor me? Do it. I will take any endorsements. I'm broke.
However, he'd then go on to talk about and reenact himself smashing his TV.
I got so mad, I literally walked up in this the other day. I took this skateboard and I was like, Then I'm like, I'm mad.
Laugh about ruining a $1,200 hoodie after leaving it on the floor.
So everything's on the floor. Expensive hoodies, $1,200 on the drain.
And then go on to purchase 2 copies of the game Destiny with the goal of showing the store some love.
And honestly, 2 copies of Destiny, like, dude, this place is nuts, you know?
Now, you could probably make the argument that this was just Lil Xan spending big whilst the camera was in his face. However, there was plenty of evidence to suggest that off camera, he was also quite unwise with his money. For example, in another No Jumper podcast, he'd talk about how he'd take 7 of his friends to Universal Studios and pay for everyone's entry just to buy 1 drink before leaving.
I'll take all my homies. I'll spend $700 to take 7 of my friends in there. Just to get Butterbeer, and we did. And I don't film it or nothing.
In addition to this, Lil Xan would take out a loan to purchase a Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, the price of which starting at around $130,000 US.
I'm about to get a G-Wagon.
Nice.
My favorite car, dream car.
Now, if we ignore the fact that Lil Xan would go on to key his own car whilst angry at a later date,
I just did this to my car.
Scratched it, keyed it up. I just bought it. Keyed all the way.
the levels of stupidity for this purchase go pretty deep. Taking out a loan to buy a car, moron. Taking out a loan to buy a luxury car just to flex on social media, double moron. Taking out a loan to buy a luxury car just to flex on social media whilst working in a creative profession where you could fall off at any moment, triple moron.
Yo, welcome to Darth Vader. This is my new whip. She's like a 9 out of 10. She ain't like a 10. But she's pretty bad. This is my first car.
However, the stupidity of his G-Wagon purchase was compounded even further when he would host a public event that would ultimately result in an extra $100,000 fine. On the 21st of December 2017, just before he'd buy the car, Lil Xan would make a tweet which read as follows: "If you live in the Inland Empire/LA area and want to meet me tonight, pull up to 100 to 110 North 5th Street, Redlands, CA 92373, United States at 7:30. Now, it's hard to call Xan an idiot for this one. It was still early in his career and the tweet was made only 4 hours prior to the meeting time. He probably expected just a couple of people to show up for photos and autographs, considering the location was also on the very outskirts of LA. Well, as you might guess, this isn't what happened. Around 2,000 people showed up, cars and streets were damaged, and ultimately the police would have to send in the helicopter unit before Lil Xan was arrested for his own safety.
I gave like a 4-hour notice. I was heading to my hometown, so I tweeted a location, and then I just expected, what, like 50 people to show up? That's just how I am. I got there, and this video's on YouTube. It's like 2,000 people showed up.
What?
But I got fined because a lot of damages to cars and streets.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
And the
hefty tax.
helicopters came out, and it's like 10 grand every helicopter. It was like Project X with the
It was a
way-
$100K bill.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Another 100K.
Lil Xan would go on to state that the event postponed his purchase of the G-Wagon.
Do you feel like you learned your lesson about that?
My manager said that it postponed my me getting a G-Wagon, so I was a little upset. But
Which could also be interpreted as, over the long run, he was now $100,000 further from owning the car outright.
They sent him a bill for 100 racks. And then I remember having a conversation with him after that. He's like, damn, bro, like, now it's gonna take me so much longer to pay this G-Wagon off.
Another rapper who owned one of these cars was Mac Miller, who happened to be Lil Xan's biggest inspiration in the beginning.
Who's like your biggest inspiration in terms of rapping?
Mac Miller, yeah.
Mac Miller, he's sick, right?
Yeah, like he's like a big inspiration. Like,
However, when Mac would unfortunately die only 9 months later, this also seemed to have an effect on Lil Xan's desire to make music.
I'd be like legit crying like in my crib, like this ain't true, bro. Like Mac did not overdose. Mac's still alive. Mac's still here. I just saw Mac 2 weeks ago. When your hero dies, I don't want to make music no more. Like he was like the reason I made music.
In this same interview, Lil Xan would also talk extensively about his desire to quit music and simply become a public figure.
So that's why I'm not doing music. Like after I finished my contract with Columbia, I didn't know what I was signing up for. I'm more of a celebrity than a rapper at this point. So that's why I'm quitting rapping.
And at the end of the day, if he's not enjoying music, the tracks that he does put out won't have the required level of effort in order to compete with other artists who are giving it their all. Lil Xan's attempt to leave music and rather become a celebrity/public figure didn't really work either. After an explosive year on Instagram in 2018, his growth would slow dramatically and has been in continual decline for the last 25 months, leading to an Instagram livestream in December 2021 in which Lil Xan would show that all of his poor decisions from the past were clearly coming back to haunt him.
The industry just doesn't care. They just want you to pump out hit records, and when you're useless to them, just leave you in the dirt. You know.
In this video, Lil Xan would blame his sober, business-minded manager Stat Quo for fueling his drug addiction after he'd supplied Lil Xan with drugs while on tour so he could go out and perform.
And my manager was supplying me with the drugs. He knew all my plugs, so if I couldn't perform because I was withdrawing back then, because yes, I used to be a drug addict, you know, he would call, make calls, send $5,000 out here, $5,000 out here just to ship the drugs to wherever we're at in the world.
This was just another example of Lil Xan's victim complex and lack of personal responsibility.
So what's he do? He decides, oh, I'm gonna go on my Instagram story, I'm gonna blame my drug addiction on Stat Quo. It's completely disingenuous. He needed to rely on his manager, who doesn't even do drugs, to get him drugs. Does this make sense to anybody? No. At a certain point, you just have to accept that like your problems are your own, and that you can't just run around playing the victim.
After many accused Lil Xan of snitching on his manager, despite he being the one with the drug addiction, Lil Xan would respond by stating that you can't snitch if you're not a gang member.
Oh, you're a snitch now, bro. He didn't make you do that, all this stuff. Like, bro, how am I a snitch? Did I go to court and rat on my gang? I don't have a gang. You can't snitch if you're not a gang member, bro. Miss me with that. I'm trying to help other artists in particularly my similar situation.
In the Instagram livestream, Lil Xan would also reveal that his manager had taken the G-Wagon from him, as Lil Xan still owed $30,000 on it, which Lil Xan would state was unreasonable, as he had paid for the majority of it.
Also, he took my car away too, that I paid the majority of the money, and now he wants $30,000 of the remaining money to pay it off, which I paid. Literally, it's all my money in the car, and he won't give it to me.
Without $30,000 to take full ownership of his G-Wagon, a declining follower count across each of his social media platforms, and no new music in over 7 months, it seems like this could possibly be the end for Lil Xan's career.
Who do we watch? Okay, let's watch this.
2 years ago, James Charles was one of the most popular names when discussing the YouTube mainstream. He was playing Minecraft with PewDiePie, hosting his own reality TV show, all while his personal YouTube channel was clearing well over 100 million views per month. However, over the last year, things have changed significantly. He's lost over 1.5 million subscribers, equivalent to losing more than 100,000 subs per month. His average viewership per video has declined from well over 10 million to a little over 1 million, all while his Twitter hasn't seen any positive follower growth during the same time period. You might say that James Charles has become the poster.
Okay, let's watch this.
What is it that's led High Distortion to change his Instagram description to lifetime failure? Why has he removed his Twitter profile picture and changed his username to not good enough? Is there a reason as to why his Twitch description requests viewers to unsub if they haven't done so already? I mean, come on, he's got over 1.6 million followers on Twitch. Why would he request that people unsubscribe? Well, it's for one simple reason. High Distortion has gone missing. He hasn't gone live on Twitch in over 8 months, hasn't uploaded a video to YouTube in a little under a year, while his last Instagram post was made exactly 52 weeks ago. However, in spite of this, there are pieces of content from different corners of the internet which hint at the reasoning behind his melancholy disappearance.
You would never, okay, I'm a bitch, but you would never say that to me in person. Never. You would never. That's the reason I stopped playing the game.
And in combination with some depressing posts made to his only remaining slightly active Twitter account, we can piece together his final actions to reveal the crystal clear motive behind his bizarre hiatus. His disappearance seems extra strange and depressing when we consider something he said during the early days of his YouTube channel.
Thank you, and there will always be more videos every single day. I hope you enjoy it.
High Distortion, or Jimmy Marino, clearly had a high level of motivation and drive when beginning his content creation journey. And it's no wonder, everything was stacked in his favor. Fortnite was a fresh new game, players weren't very good, but High Distortion was insanely skilled. He had learned his third-person shooter skills as a pro Gears of War player.
We got the Insanes Gears of War 2 team. I got Jimmy over here with me on my right side. High Distortion. Jimmy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right.
And only a month after Fortnite's release, High Distortion had already uploaded multiple 20+ kill solo v squad games, the craziest of which being a 27 kill game only 35 days after Fortnite's release.
Let's go, buddy. Let's go. 27 bombs. What a hit.
After his audience would also discover that High Distortion was an amateur bodybuilder, intrigue would build around his character. And in combination with his unique personality and ability to mesh well with other influential Fortnite streamers like Dakotaz and Grims, he would find popularity at a time when there were few other creators in the Fortnite space. However, it would be with 2 specific videos that things really started to take off for High Distortion. One in which he and his team would break the world record for the most kills in a single game,
Let's go! Let's go!
And another in which he and his team would once again break the world record by winning 27 squad games in a row. People quickly realized that High Distortion had a serious talent when it came to the squad's playlist. Whether it was winning squad games in a row, setting kill records with his team, or notably demolishing entire lobbies in a solo v squad setting, High Distortion was the man for the job. Dropping 30 bombs in solo v squads became second nature to the High Distortion channel.
Don't worry about me. 30 bomb, baby.
And as a result, he would gain a reputation as the best solo v squad player in the whole game.
31. The record.
This helped High Distortion to stick out from the hundreds of other Fortnite creators, boosting his follower counts dramatically. But it also did something else which was certainly unexpected. Generally speaking, in solo v squads, you'd get more kills than in any other game mode, as you'd often encounter teams of up to 4 players, as opposed to solos where every kill would have to come from a player on their own. Since HD had been playing a disproportionate quantity of solo v squads, seemingly all day every day, he would find himself at rank number 2 in the world for total eliminations, behind rank number 1, Ninja. In Chapter 1 Season 7, at around 97,000 kills each, Ninja would upload a video titled The Race for 100k Eliminations, creating a little bit of friendly competition between the two creators. Perhaps Ninja was confident in the video call-out because at the time, he'd actually been ahead by a few hundred kills. However, with High Distortion having more time on his hands and the ability to dominate in solo v squads, he would overtake Ninja at the 97,000 kill mark, and with HD looking like he was going to win the competition, Ninja would tweet, taking a break and giving up on the race to 100k. High Distortion doing 30-hour streams, kid's a monster.
I think I'm just gonna concede, dude. HD's putting in 30+ hour streams for this. He's gonna have it. Just wants to hang out, guys. And I haven't seen her in like 6 days. So I just can't do 20-hour streams uninterrupted, man.
Approximately 3 weeks later, High Distortion would become the first ever player to hit 100,000 eliminations, cementing him in the history books as ranked number 1 for kills on Fortnite Tracker.
I'm sorry, dude. But good night. There it is. That was it right there. That was the 100,000th kill.
Now, the friendly beef with Ninja, as well as the notoriety for being the first to 100,000 kills, helped to grow High Distortion's reputation and follower count. However, simultaneously, achieving the goal of 100,000 kills would also come with unexpected negatives. The fundamental problem with achieving goals is that it keeps you satisfied for about 1 day. Afterwards, you have the problem of needing to find something else to strive for, or you'll find yourself in a bored state with nothing to do. In the year leading up to reaching 100,000 kills, High Distortion had something to strive for, something to keep him motivated. But afterwards, having achieved the goal, there was now a diminishing reason to play solo v squads, and as a result, he would experiment with other game types on stream, such as squad fills, which, unbeknownst to him at the time, would ultimately contribute to his eventual disappearance. During one specific squad fill in May of 2019, HD will be stream sniped by a player who was trying to get a reaction out of High Distortion by trolling him.
35, single, you have no f***ing girlfriend, you suck. I got more money than you will ever make in your f***ing life.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah, okay. Sure, bro, sure.
As the game progressed, the argument only continued to escalate.
You stream snipe! Oh wait, and you're proud of stream sniping? 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 You stream snipe! That's the only thing you can do is stream snipe! You can't get a kill regularly!
And by the end of the match, High Distortion's rage will climax in an outburst that can only be described as hilariously pathetic.
You envy it. You can't take the fact that it's your miserable life, that I have a million times more money than you'll ever have, way more successful than you'll ever be. You can't take it. 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 You pussy. You can't take it.
Yeah, you're not happy though.
You can't take it. You can't take it. Your life is miserable, and I'm making millions doing this. I'm making millions doing this. You can't take it. You can't take it.
It's hard to tell exactly what HD was attempting to achieve by snapping at a random stream sniper in squad fills. Perhaps he was having a bad day and simply felt the need to protect his own ego. Maybe he was trying to uphold the image of being a dominant alpha bodybuilder by using rage. Or maybe he was trying to get the clip to go viral, as had happened with one of his previous rages.
CDN made me. Explain to me how CDN made me.
I just
Well, don't stutter. Don't stutter. Don't stutter. Don't stutter in my Discord. Don't stutter in my Discord, okay? That's the first rule.
However, none of these were seemingly achieved, as all it seemed to do was reveal that HD was extremely sensitive to the opinions of others, a point that would plague him from that game onwards.
The team consists of grown men. If you're not going to act like a grown man, you know, then I mean, you probably should be doing something different. We're not dropping HD because of performance. He's a phenomenal player, and Jimmy being everything that he is, he's a very emotional man. He still wants to act like that, and to be honest, I just don't I don't want to deal with it.
But keep that in mind while we explore another thing that would eventually contribute to High Distortion's disappearance, and that's some of the updates and changes within Fortnite itself. In mid-2020, about 7 months before High Distortion would go missing, he'd state that the lightsaber update in Chapter 2 would ultimately cause him to fall out of love with the game that had made him so famous in the first place.
The lightsabers really just did it for me, man. Like,
oh, bro, the lightsabers, I hated those, bro.
Bro, that's the reason I stopped playing the game. Was the lightsabers, and I just never came back after that. Like, I don't know, it put such a sour taste in my mouth, those lightsabers. Bro, I'm getting triggered now. I'm thinking about it. Those lightsabers were in the game for 6 weeks. Oh my God, you don't understand the pain those things caused me. Like 6 days was too much. They were in the game for 6 weeks.
Another problem was that by Chapter 2, players had become so good at the game type High Distortion had become known for, solo versus squads, making it substantially harder than in the days when he was dropping 30 bombs weekly. If the content that he had become known for was now harder to produce, perhaps it would put a hindrance on his motivation to make it. In addition to all of this, High Distortion would tweet, "I've tried and tried multiple times to like Fortnite again these past 6 months. I can't." After deciding that he no longer enjoyed Fortnite, he would begin to play other variety games on stream, in the hope that his audience would be receptive to the new games as they had been in the initial days of Fortnite. However, not only did his new videos receive very few views, his viewer base would resent him for playing something other than Fortnite, and in true High Distortion fashion, he was unable to ignore the criticism and would take to Twitter stating, "It's honestly discouraging AF for me for the amount of hate I get on Twitch for not playing Fortnite. Didn't expect so many to chime in. Just had a plethora of trolls/hate last stream, as if I hurt people for playing something else. Thanks for the positivity, people. Just gotta still recognize I get to play games for a career." It seemed as though HD had set himself up in a position where he could either play games outside of Fortnite and in exchange receive barely any views and a load of hate from his fans, or he could play Fortnite, a game that he hated, in exchange for a dwindling view count. High Distortion would choose a mix of each. However, it got to the point where it didn't really matter whether he decided to play Fortnite or Valorant or whatever, HD was barely able to crack 5,000 views per video, regardless of whatever game he was playing. High Distortion would then begin to lose followers on Twitch during every single stream, and the self-deprecation came along with it. A bunch of Fortnite creators fell out of the spotlight in the transition from Chapter 1 to Chapter 2, however, I think it's safe to say that High Distortion seemingly took it worse than almost anyone else. He would name some of his final streams, "I suck and I fell off, I know, thank you," and "the biggest failure on Twitch is live," while, as mentioned in the beginning, he would also make his Instagram description "lifetime failure." His Twitter username would be changed to "not good enough," and he would make tweets such as "I suck at everything" and "nothing I do matters, it's always told it's worthless." Maybe just living in a log cabin in the middle of nowhere away from everyone is where I belong. High Distortion would continue to host the occasional live stream on Twitch up until February 2021, at which point he would go live one final time in a stream titled "Last Shot," before changing his description to "unsub if you haven't already" and disappearing from almost all social media. From this point onwards, High Distortion will remain active only on Twitter, posting the occasional tweet updating everyone on his life. 3 months after his final stream, he would tweet out, "Just when you think things can't get any worse, they always do. Rock bottom, here we come." Also disabling reply showing that he was perhaps completely and utterly sick of people discussing his fall from grace. Approximately 2 months ago in August 2021, High Distortion would tweet photos of some new kittens that he had seemingly purchased, accompanied by a few other tweets inferring that he'd been playing Apex Legends. However, despite stating that he had been playing Apex Legends, HD has yet to stream the game and has not given any indication as to when he might return to YouTube, Instagram, or Twitch, which leads us to the final question of the video. What happened to High Distortion? Well, for High Distortion, it seemingly got to a point where the underperformance of his videos and streams created so much pain that a better alternative was simply to not upload or stream at all. To add a cherry on top, there was an extra layer of pain with everyone pointing out the fact that he had fallen off, exacerbated by his own stupid idea that he was better off responding to the masses as opposed to simply ignoring them. Putting a Joe Rogan clip in this video is extremely cringy, cliche, and will definitely remove all of my credibility, but this little snippet from something I was watching the other day speaks almost perfectly to High Distortion's unfortunate situation.
Well, what we hear very little about is when that road comes to an end and that escalating glory and reward dries up and what those people's lives are like after that. And unless they've worked very hard to cultivate other aspects of their personality, when that dopamine trail dries up, then they have to contend with, the come down. the dopamine deficit state, not to mention all of the other aspects related to loss of identity. Who am I if I'm not this person who's winning?
High Distortion seems to be dealing with the come down. And while many others have dealt with the come down by playing other games, HD is seemingly checked out of the internet to deal with the come down on his own terms.
High Distortion.
Yesterday, Tammy went into the hospital. She has pneumonia and she can't breathe. I set up a GoFundMe account. If y'all can donate a penny, nickel, dime, I would be so happy.
When Amy and Tammy Slayton first began their YouTube journey back in 2014, they were seen by their audience as two wholesome sisters who were bravely putting themselves out into the world despite their unconventional appearances. However, only a few short years later, that very same audience had grown to hate and despise them. The Slayton sisters would turn their entire audience against them through controversy after controversy, peaking with one of the most ambitious scandals in YouTube history, a GoFundMe for Tammy Slayton's funeral, who hadn't even died. However, if the audience had simply known more about these two sisters prior to the beginning of their channel, each of these controversies could have been easily predicted. For example, back in 2010, Amy would be arrested after shoplifting an $8 book from Walmart, showing that even prior to beginning YouTube, the sisters were prone to both cutting corners and cheating the system. Most of this information would only become public at a later date, so when they first began their channel, they were liked. The sisters built an audience through their strong family bond, positive attitude, and ability to laugh at their own shortcomings.
We need to lose weight to become skinny.
We don't care if you don't like us, we're fat and we love it.
They weren't exactly the sharpest tools in the shed, but people appreciated their authenticity.
I want to say, hey, I'm fat, but don't you call me fat. Why would I want you to call me fat if we're trying to be in a relationship? Come on now, use your brains.
And the fact that they were kind of doing YouTube for themselves. It didn't seem like they were trying to impress anyone. Love when a girl isn't afraid to be herself. I applaud you. Finally, a real person doing a review. Love it. Keep them coming. I love her so much. She always has such a positive, fun, relaxing vibe. The Slayton sisters would receive their first big break after posting a video titled Chubby Bunny Challenge, which would go on to gain a view count in the millions. However, when examining the video's thumbnail and dislike ratio, it was pretty obvious that it had gone viral as a result of people watching to laugh at their physical appearances.
Chubby's nice.
I salute this channel for not disabling comments, that takes bravery. I genuinely didn't know it was possible for the human body to lay adipose tissue on the forehead. Anytime I wake up and think I don't really feel like working out today, I just think of this video and it gives me the motivation I need. It was a similar story with videos like Bake With Me and trying new makeup. The thumbnails were sufficiently horrid and laughable to make the videos go viral. However, despite the hate, the hundreds of thousands of views across the videos still brought in others who appreciated the relaxed nature of the channel, growing their fan base further. Oh, you're so cute. Well done on your makeup and ignore all the negative comments. She is so sweet. I would let her put makeup on me any day. All the beauty gurus be like, you gotta do it exactly like this, Kay. And this girl is like, it's your makeup, you choose how to do it. And she did pretty good. I'm gonna sub. However, while a growing fan base would generally be seen as a positive for most YouTube channels, for the Slayton sisters it would end up becoming a negative, as it'd be at around the same time that they begin to reach out to their audience for help in relation to their lack of financial security. For example, after achieving 1,000 subscribers on their channel, the Slayton sisters would set up their first GoFundMe, requesting that their audience help them buy an Apple MacBook with the goal of increasing the quality of their videos. Now, most of their audience felt as though there was nothing wrong with this proposal. The audience sends a bit of money through, the sisters get a new laptop, and in return the audience gets a higher average video quality, which is seemingly a win-win for both parties. However, on the contrary, some of her viewers felt as though the Slayton sisters were abusing their power as YouTubers in comments such as, delete this, you are going to lose all your subscribers. You're a pathetic lowlife that needs to get off your ass and get a damn job like the rest of us instead of mooching off of us. You are disgusting. And if I were you, thank God I am not. I couldn't wake up in the mornings. As a response to the hate, Amy would shift the blame from herself, stating that her friend was the one who suggested that she make the GoFundMe.
I do not take money very lightly. The whole MacBook thing was not my idea. It was a friend of mine's idea. I didn't even edit the video or anything. But that video is down.
However, while Amy did receive a bit of hate, the operation would prove to be successful after raising over $833, showing the Slayton sisters that it was not only possible, but simple to extract money from their audience through GoFundMe, which would become a vital piece of information for the main scandal to be covered in this video. The other problem that the Slayton sisters encountered after growing an audience was that they could now be held accountable for the stories that they shared throughout their videos. For example, Amy would upload a video talking about a situation in which she had adopted a German Shepherd rescue dog before leaving it it in a camper van on a hot summer's day. Now, Amy would state that the air conditioning was on whilst the dog was inside, and that the camper van was, quote, freezing.
The camper has AC in it, and we only put him in there for like 30 minutes. And who are y'all to judge me?
However, when Amy would then reveal that the dog had gone crazy inside and smashed the air conditioning unit just to get out, her audience assumed that maybe the AC wasn't on and that the dog was going crazy because it had been overheating inside. This theory would be supported further after Amy revealed that the dog had bitten her quite severely after escaping from the camper van, leading her audience to believe that the dog was all riled up after overheating. As a result of the incident, Amy would state that the dog had been put in a 14-day quarantine.
The dog is in 14-day quarantine. He has a week to go.
However, with the bite mark being so severe and Amy taking the dog to the pound, whilst using the wording that the dog was no longer with her, the audience assumed that Amy had taken the dog to the pound to have it put down, resulting in the popular opinion that Amy was an animal abuser. I can't imagine this woman owning a German Shepherd. Shepherds need tons of activity both physically and mentally. She couldn't even take care of herself, let alone such a strong and intelligent breed. I'm sorry, but I highly doubt she ran after the German Shepherd. You need to be relatively active to own a dog like a German Shepherd, and you need to be trained to be able to take care of an abused large dog. This sentiment will become even worse when, at a later date, Tammy would upload a video talking about the celebration of her birthday at a gaming arcade, mentioning in passing that she felt sorry for their other dog, Littlebit, who had been left in the hot car whilst they were inside playing games.
I feel bad for a little bit because she sat outside in the hot car while we were having fun. But I did, while we were at getting something to eat, I did get a little bit some ice water. So I thought about her, at least. Amy said I was going to get her some water.
What a selfish, disgusting bunch of people these three are. Poor, poor little dog. I'm surprised Littlebit is still alive. These events did a pretty good job of destroying the Slayton sisters' reputation. However, as you might assume, it was only going to get worse from there on out, as Amy would find herself in yet another controversy after going on a date with a 19-year-old autistic kid at a local McDonald's.
Y'all know that I had the worst night ever Friday, and it was a horrible night. It started off good. We met each other. Well, it wasn't the first time we met. Don't think that. I'm not that type of person.
As mentioned, in the beginning the date seemed to have been going well, to the extent that Amy and her date decided to book a hotel so they could go and get frisky together, at which point things would start to head in a negative direction.
And then we went to a hotel room. I finally got up and started loving on him. I was trying to give him a hickey because he was a virgin and he never had a hickey before. So I was giving him a hickey and he was like, quit biting me. And I'm like, I'm not biting you. And he was like, yeah, you are. So I bit him.
After biting her date and assumably scaring him off during the intimate moment, he would take to Facebook, posting a status written in an ancient hillbilly dialect, which will receive a response from Amy about the size of his penis. Following this, Amy would go on to upload her video discussing the night, where she would completely dox the guy in the comment section with his Facebook page and telephone number, after which he would be harassed by Amy's YouTube audience. In somewhat of a hilarious act of karma, Amy would then go on to get into another relationship, which would ultimately end in separation after Amy's YouTube audience decided to get involved.
I hope y'all guys are happy. David just broke up with me because everybody was harassing. Now y'all see why I don't tell people who I'm dating. Because y'all bully and harassing. And then he does.
And while this would mark the end of Amy and Tammy's reputational-based scandals, it would ironically mark the beginning of what would be many financial controversies, beginning when their audience discovered that the sisters had been receiving government assistance in a video titled Amy's Toxoplasmosis. Amy would explain that as a result of being legally blind, she had been receiving social security payments.
I'm not on disability for my weight. I'm on disability because of my eyesight.
It would then be revealed later that Tammy was also receiving disability payments for her morbid obesity, which would result in backlash from her audience, stating that they were rorting the system by receiving money from both the government and their job as YouTubers. In addition to receiving money from these two sources, they also began to make money from selling merch, before many would claim that this was also a scam. The merch site was suspicious from the very beginning and read as follows. If you purchase Tammy's merch, you'll be added to a private group chat with Tammy. To purchase, head over to the donate section and donate the appropriate amount, $35 for t-shirts, $50 for hoodies, then head to the contact section and email us with the email you used to make the purchase. The reason that the Slayton sisters requested for purchasers to donate the appropriate amount became pretty obvious. They're definitely scamming the tax system and sliding money to Tammy so she can stay on disability from what it seems. I support a good side hustle, but this one is super shady. What the hell kind of sketchy ass website is this? I just donate my money and hope to God I get something in return? No tracking or proof of purchase? Refunds? No thank you. This feels like a way to scam the IRS somehow. I didn't sell anything, people donated. It got worse when fans would come to realize realize that the sisters hadn't been paying the artists who had completed the designs for the merch. A representative for Tammy would take to Instagram stating, "All people who make artwork don't ask to get paid, but to simply get a follow or notice by Tammy." Most of the artwork on the website right now was designed by @blank, our website designer, and @blank again. However, apparently this wasn't the arrangement made with the artists. In an article written about the scam by Showbiz Cheat Sheet, it was mentioned that at least one artist has claimed they requested their art not be used without payment and have since been blocked and have had their artwork misattributed to someone else. This artist would take to Instagram in a post reading, "I wasn't being unfair at all, just saying how my artwork is being passed off as someone else's when I spent time doing it, and I've now been blocked, yet my design is still up on your website, not really fair at all. All I wanted was credit for it, that's all." As a result of this scandal, Tammy's TikTok with over 1 million followers, on which she had promoted her merch, would be permanently banned. However, this still doesn't make it the most notorious controversy in the Slayton sisters' history, bringing us to the infamous funeral scam. It began when Tammy, who was the heavier of the two sisters, fell over in the bathroom before waking up the following day without the ability to breathe.
I woke up and I couldn't breathe. Like bad. Like I really couldn't breathe.
And after being rushed to hospital, it will be discovered that Tammy had contracted pneumonia.
I went to the hospital and the ambulance. Took x-rays and a couple hours went by and they told me I had pneumonia and I was going to have to stay in the hospital.
Whilst in the hospital, Tammy's condition would worsen, leading her to pass out for 3.5 weeks whilst on life support, during which Amy would begin the GoFundMe. Now, to Amy's credit, it probably was pretty scary having your overweight, unhealthy sister on life support for over 3 weeks. However, to begin planning for the funeral before she had even died was almost comically pessimistic, which would become even funny when Amy stated that the money was to fund Tammy's triple-size extra-large coffin.
With Tammy being so big, if something does happen, her coffin is gonna cost them more because they have to triple the size of the coffin.
Whilst mentioning that Tammy was on a medical card, however, the amount of money it provided would not be enough to cover the funeral.
She is on a medical card. The medical cards will not cover all of the bills. So this GoFundMe account will be for Tammy's funeral if she dies. So please find it in your heart to donate.
The GoFundMe itself, which would raise a total of $818, read, "This fund is for if anything was to happen to her, will go to her funeral. If she makes it through this, the money will stay there or go to her hospital bills that insurance won't pay. I won't ask, but I don't know what else to do. Please help us, even if it's cents. Thank you and may God bless you." Now, if Amy had approached the situation from the angle of "we're just doing this to cover the hospital bills" and left it at that, there probably wouldn't have even been any backlash. However, since she had put so much weight on the possibility of death and people had donated assuming that she was going to die, when she would return to the videos a few weeks later laughing, joking, and eating junk food as if nothing had ever happened, obviously the audience and those who had donated weren't all that happy, judging from the 85% dislike ratio on the original "We Need Your Help" video. It also didn't help that in a different video, Amy would reiterate that the money wasn't going to be spent on anything besides the funeral.
We won't be spending it on anything but the funeral. I just wanted to clarify that. Or I'm going to take it up to the funeral home where it can build interest. I probably will take it to the funeral home and let it build interest. So if something does happen, we have that as a backup plan.
So when it was confirmed that there was no funeral, a new question had been created. Where had the money gone?
What the fuck? Where the fuck did the money go, bro?